Welcome back to my channel for a smartphone photography episode. And there is a saying among people who are interested in photography that the best camera is the one you have with you when you need it. And that certainly applies to modern smartphones like Samsung Galaxy smartphones, the iPhone here. This is the iPhone 17 Pro Max. This is the device I always have with me. My whole digital life is stored in this phone, in the Notes app, you know, all the TV segments, the movies I'm interested in, the music I'm listening to, the apps I need. Everything is here, my agenda, my contacts, WhatsApp, what have you. And of course, that I always have with me. And now I'm a strange person. I typically don't leave the house without a camera. But on the very rare occasions when I do, I still have the fallback here in my iPhone 17 Pro Max, namely a very capable camera system. Now, what I have here in front of me on the table is what I would call enhancements of the anyway capable camera ensemble I have here on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. And the company who sent this equipment to me is called Reeflex, and we are talking here about a Super Telephoto 240mm lens. And this time, my dear friends, it's not a Chinese company. Very often in the innovative space of enhancements in the optical area, for instance, photography for smartphones, these companies very often are based in China. This time, I think this company here is headquartered in Italy, and it seems it's a small private company with representatives in Rome, Copenhagen, and Zurich. And they do not just send lenses like here, the Super Telephoto 240mm. What they actually do, and that's why I'm super interested in reviewing this, is they are creating an ecosystem. They are creating an ecosystem with lenses, add-on lenses for macro photography, magnetic filter systems, you know, with the device, namely the phone case where you can mount this, and with software, which I will download here from the iOS App Store. So a complete ecosystem, all based on Kickstarter campaigns, very successful, and in my opinion, something that will very likely, if we then finally look into image quality, enhance the natural capabilities of smartphones like the iPhone 17 Pro Max tremendously and provide basically an entry ticket into professional photography with a smartphone like the one I have here in my hands. And that altogether makes, I think, this video super interesting. So we'll have a longer journey in front of us. Let's study the functionality of all of these gadgets here in front of me on the table. First here in the studio, then let's go out in the field and shoot the equipment. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, support my work. Many thanks for that. Let's start by mounting the Reeflex phone case. So let's get the native original Apple case off here. Let's get this off my iPhone and let's put it aside. And here's the Reeflex case. It's nicely done. I think the quality of this case with this texture here is very well done. It also feels solid and robust. So let's click my iPhone in here. Here we go. And now we have the lenses at disposal here. Looks good. What I will need in the bag I'm taking with me when shooting this is a lens pen. And the lens pen is my best tool for cleaning lenses, because we want to have clean lenses here on the iPhone to not disturb image quality, right? Let's have a look. This looks good, it's clean now. And now let's have a look here. They have here a very short manual how it works for the iPhone 17 Pro Max. And if we compare this, you see here we have actually a mount where we can mount lenses. And the lens I got here, the Super Telephoto 240mm, will be mounted onto the 48 megapixel tele camera of the iPhone 17 Pro Max. And you see it here, basically it's indicated here. They also have a bit of instructions here for the iPhone 17 Air and for the iPhone 17. Of course, they ask me what phone I typically use. It's the 17 Pro Max. So this is basically for me. and where I need to pay attention. Let's also, and they say here where to find it, let's also download the app now in the App Store. So we are prepared in terms of software when we want to operate these lenses here and this equipment in front of me on the table. All right, let's go first into the iOS App Store. Let's type in Reeflex here. And then the correct app we need here is the Pro Camera Reflex. You see here long exposure and DSLR controls. Let's get it and download it. Let's double click to install. Here we go. Now it's installing. Download goes very quickly here in the studio. Very quick Wi-Fi here. And that's it. The main hero of this ensemble here in front of me on the table is the Super Telephoto 240mm lens. I've already unboxed it and stored it in this nice pouch. Let's open it. And in the pouch you find the telephoto 240mm, macro add-on lens is magnetic. I show this to you in a moment. And the macro 300mm add-on lens, also magnetic, and they came in these two boxes here. If you look here, I wanted to save time, so I basically got them out already. Means we can get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, and then the scene in front of me on the table will be much cleaner. Now, you guys know me, right? I always apply my best possible diligence when I review gadgets, and there is an inconsistency here which needs to be addressed. And that's the following. It says telephoto 240mm, but on the iPhone 17 Pro Max will actually not have, when mounting this lens here, a focal length of 240mm. And the reason is very simple. This lens was brought to market when iPhones, I believe it was the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the 16 Pro Max, when they had a 5x optical zoom. Now, let's quickly do the math here. If the main camera has a focal length on the iPhone of 24mm, a 5x optical zoom takes you up to 120mm. This lens here is a 2x focal length extender. So if we multiply 120mm by a factor of 2, we end up at exactly 240mm, which is the nomenclature engraved here onto the lens. But that's no longer true for the iPhone 17 Pro Max, because here the telephoto lens is actually a 4x optical zoom. And doing the math now again, and that didn't change, the focal length of the main camera is 24mm. If we multiply this by 4 for a 4x optical zoom, we end up at 96mm. And then if we apply here a 2x focal length extender, we have 96 times 2, which takes us to 192mm. So we are even below 200mm. So the 240mm here is misleading for the iPhone 17 Pro Max. It used to be correct, for instance, for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And that is something I wanted at least to address here. Of course, here we have the 8x zoom, which is not an optical zoom, but an 8x zoom. And if we apply this here with the telephoto lens mounted, we end up at an insane focal length of give or take 400mm. And that, of course, is something we have now on the 17 Pro Max and we haven't had on the 16 Pro Max. But the way this is engraved here, 240mm, is for historic reasons when the flagship iPhone had a 5x optical zoom and not a 4x optical zoom like I have it here on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. And I think you guys should know that. Now let's start to play a little bit with it. Let's get the telephoto 240mm lens out, although we are now conscious that this will end up in a closed 200mm focal length on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. And there is a little lens cap here at the rear side of the lens. It can be easily pulled off, and we can now mount this here to the tele lens of the iPhone. And it's very solid in terms of build quality. And listen how this gets screwed in. Listen to the sound. Very nice. And then it's super solid sitting here on this reflex case. And this is a full metal construction. The build quality is beyond any doubt. When I took this out of box and stored it in this pouch here, I was already super convinced that this is top-notch quality. And then everything attached to this lens here is magnetic. And see how the lens cap comes off. I pull it off. And if I want to get it back and protect the lens, it will magnetically clip on again. Listen to the sound. Very simple, and you need significant force to get it off. So this is very well protected here. And also the lens cap here is very solid with a Reeflex logo here engraved, if you look here. And this is all very nice. And look at the glass here, the optics we have here. This looks, in my opinion, super promising. Let's switch the phone on. Let's go into the Reeflex app and let's see how this magnifies the watch background here on the background wall if we have the tele lens mounted and if we have it not mounted. Opening the Reeflex app for the very first time, we get a bit of information here. And it also replaces the native camera app of the iPhone, which is not really good for manual shooting, and we all know that. And it says here, your everyday pro DSLR camera captures stunning photos with full creative control. Continue. Full manual controls, adjust ISO, shutter speed, focus, and white balance to nail the perfect shot. Continue. Motion blur, smooth motion into soft cinematic textures from flowing waterfalls to moving crowds. Light trails can be captured here. We can do focus bracketing, which is absolutely amazing, in particular for macro photography. We have exposure bracketing and we have pro level tools. So if I like this app, and I just started with this equipment here, and I called it before an ecosystem with a lens, you know, with add-on lenses, which the boxes I removed by now for macro shooting, and then a magnetic filter system. This might, going forward, really replace the native camera app of the iPhone for me. Pro level tools. And of course, here you can subscribe to get an exclusive discount on our products, and so on and so on. So we now need a subscription. We can go for €1.50 a month, or we can get a lifetime access, a one-time purchase. And since this looks very promising to me, I go for the lifetime access, but I recommend to you, if you're not sure yet and you want to try this out, go always for a monthly subscription of €1.50. If you then don't want it any longer, you can just remove the subscription in the iPhone subscription section under your iCloud account, and then you don't have to pay any longer. So this is very simple and very easy. And let's see here. Here you can purchase it. So let's do this. Double click. And you're all set. Your purchase was successful. Very nice. And we need now to give permissions here. Reeflex needs your permission for photos. And I will do that. I will say allow full access. And for the camera, of course, and we allow access to the camera. That is a need to have requirement, of course, to use this app. Then we go next. And you see here a lot of information coming in about focus stacking, all of that. Let's say I got it. And now we are here, of course. Part is blocked. We are on the main camera here. We need to go to the tele camera. And this is the 4x camera. And look here how this basically gets me very close to the watch image, the print I have on my background wall here. Let's take a photo. Let's have a look. And this looks very, very good. So this looks really cool in my opinion. Of course, we can also try out the 8x zoom here, and then we get even closer. This will still be good image quality. I really like how I can select lenses here and how it stays on that lens and doesn't automatically switch like you sometimes have it on the native camera app on the iPhone. Let's quickly remove the tele lens to see how it looks like if it is no longer mounted, and you will see it's the double focal length. It really is a 2x focal length extender. Let's take it off. Very difficult to do this behind the camera. Look here. This is the native 4x optical zoom of the iPhone, and if I get this screwed on again, you will see this is exactly double the focal length. Let me try to do this very quickly. Just wanted to illustrate that to you. And here you see how much closer you get to your subject in the background. Let's also quickly look into the macro add-on lenses. And let me place this quickly here on the table. Let's try the 200mm first. Let's take it out, and this will magnetically also snap onto the telelens. Have a look here. No need to screw. It will go very naturally magnetically, and we can just clip it on. Listen to the sound. Here we go. And now we have, of course, no longer infinity focus or focus at a far distance here. We are now in close-up distance. And the close-up distance is very simple to remember, because for the 200mm macro lens, we have a minimum focusing distance of 20 centimeters, so 0.2 meter. And for the 300mm macro add-on lens, we have a minimum focusing distance of 30 centimeters, so 0.3 meters. So 200mm 0.2 meter, 300mm 0.3 meter. That's very simple to remember. And we can use this now for close-up shooting and macro photography. I talked before about minimum focusing distance, but that's actually not really correct, because what you have here is a focusing distance on the 200mm lens of exactly 20 centimeters, so 0.2 meter. And that means in order to find focus, you move the phone forth and back and try to find the spot where you exactly hit the 0.2 meter. And I think that's it. Let me take a shot here. This is a Swiss coin here. Let's take the shot. And I think that's what we wanted. Look here. This is very sharp. So you basically move the phone until you hit the focus. And the same applies, of course, here. I said minimum focusing distance, but when trying this out a moment ago, I see that this is 0.3 meter and exactly 0.3 meter. So we need to make sure that we find that focus distance to the subject. Let's try the other lens. This was the 200mm lens. Let's try the 300mm lens. And this is so super easy because of these magnetic holdings. Look here. I just take it off, and I can put it back into the case so that I can read what lens this is. Then we take the 300mm macro add-on lens out, and again, it will magnetically snap in. Listen to the sound. And now with the 300mm macro add-on lens, we need 0.3 meter, no longer 0.2. So let me try to find the exact focusing distance. I think that's kind of it. Let me take a shot. And let's have a look. And here we go. I think this looks good, is fine, and is of course a little bit of trial and error and getting used to that you have to move the camera forth and back. But that's something you also do in professional macro photography from time to time. And you just dial in on the lens, let's say the minimum focusing distance, and then you just move the camera and do no longer turn the focus ring. So this is all fine. I think this worked for me. I've demonstrated what I wanted to demonstrate. What I want to do is quickly also looking into the magnetic filter system, and then we get everything in one bag, and we leave the studio, go out in the field and shoot this equipment. So what do we have here in terms of filters? And the first one is a neutral density filter, 1.5 to 5. It's a magnetic filter, 67mm filter thread. And the second one is a circular polar filter, also 67mm filter thread. And then we have here a filter adapter set, and that seems to include 4 pieces. So let's open this one first. Let's get it out. And look at that. That looks actually pretty cool. And by the way, it's pretty heavy. Everything here, as I also mentioned when looking at the lens the very first time, is very solid, made out of metal, and the build quality is absolutely fantastic. Let's open this up here. Let's have a look. And you see we have here now different filters. And let's move them here for the time being. Here is another one. Here is another one. And they also have tiny little protection layers in between so that nothing scratches. All very well done. Whatever they seem to do at Reeflex, they do it with diligence and care. When looking at these adapter rings here, we also have different engravings. So here we have a 67mm step-up adapter anamorphic. Here we have a 67mm step-up adapter wide angle and telephoto. And I guess this is the one we need for the 240mm lens here, is a 67mm step-up adapter. So let's take this one here. This should all work by magnetic holdings again. So it should snap on magnetically. Listen to the sound. Here we go. And you see how this is working. And I guess now if we take, for instance, the neutral density filter here, it will also get magnetically hold here and clips on to this 67mm step-up adapter for the telephoto 240mm, which is this beauty here on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. This is all very well done. I'm super excited about it. So let's get the ND filter out just to try it out once. And let's see. Here we go. Very nice. And by the way, we can turn this. Here is a scale. So this here is 1.5. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5. And correspondingly, we can shoot longer, even in brighter daylight, with this neutral density filter. So here is now the lens. Here is the adapter. And magnetically, this should snap in now. And here we go. And it is perfect. You can rotate this here. And it sits very nicely on this construction. This is an ecosystem. I need to mention it, I think, for the third time now. This is an ecosystem we are talking about here. Software in the phone, the Reeflex app, professional DSLR-like approach to smartphone photography, a tele lens, which comes close to 200mm on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, with macro add-on lenses for close-up and macro photography. 200mm has a focusing distance of 0.2 meter, 300mm 0.3 meter focusing distance, then a filter adapter, and then magnetically snapping on, getting clipped on to the adapter, neutral density filter here with different strength. And of course, we also have here then the circular polar filter, which we can use. Now, what I will do for the rest of the video, I really want to shoot now this tele lens also with the macro add-on lenses. I will very likely not shoot the ND filter or the CPL filter here because that's not what I have in scope for today. But it is very cool to have it because in certain situations you might really need a neutral density filter, or if you want to shoot through glass, for instance, in the zoo and in, you know, an aquarium, what have you, then you want to get rid of reflections. You want to have a polar filter. And this is just completing, making whole this ecosystem I described before. And I think this is done in a very nice and, I must say, in a very impressive way by this small company Reeflex. All right, I'm ready to go out and shoot. I have put this back into this beautiful pouch here, this storage container, so that I can read what I pick. This is clear, of course, by size. Telephoto 240mm, macro add-on lens 200mm, 300mm. We'll close this for transportation. Here we go. Then we have here, I'll also take this with me just in case. I don't think I will shoot it and need it. It just completes the ecosystem. But the filter adapter set, the ND filter and the polar filter. I will leave the case, of course, on my iPhone 17 Pro Max. What I also need in the back is my lens pen. From time to time, it might be necessary to clean the lenses. And I'm ready to go out and shoot. I will come back with sample footage, so we'll discuss them in detail later in Lightroom Classic. All right, the app from Reeflex is done very, very well. And I think it's a very important pillar of this ecosystem I talked about before. And I have currently not yet mounted the Super Tele 240mm, but just wanted to show you a little bit the graphical user interface here. First of all, you have here focus peaking. You see, this kicks in. I can choose in the settings what focus peaking color I want. So if I go here, for instance, to additional options, you see I can enable the location. Thumbnail can be embedded, and I have here the focus peaking colors. I can do this in red. You see here, I can also do it, of course, in different colors, whatever I want. Let's go back here, sorry. Additional options. We go here to blue again because I like that most. It's kind of a turquoise, I think, more than blue, but it's very nice. So you can activate it or deactivate it. We have here focus stacking options, which I will try out in a close-up shooting situation later today. We also have exposure bracketing here with all kinds of parameters we can tweak. We have generally here the option to swipe away the settings on the left bezel of the live view, but we can also activate it. We can activate the flash here on automatic, flash on always or flash off. We also have, by the way, a torch mode, which is very nice. Then it's on all the time. We have a self timer here. which in my opinion is great. Of course, we have grid options here. So here is 3x3 grid, which is what most people will use here. Let's switch it off. And we also have kind of a level gauge here. So there is a lot we can do. And we have the option here to choose the lens we want. This is the 0.5 times super wide angle. This is the main camera of the iPhone, 24mm. Then we have 2 times zoom and we have 4 times the optical zoom, which is what we use for the shooting. And then we have the 8 times zoom, of course, and that's the one where basically we drop back from 48 megapixel to 12 megapixel. Let's stay in the 4 times zoom here. Let's also get this a little bit more centered. I want to basically shoot over the causeway of the lake. And let's take a shot here. So I think we need to check the quality, but you see here, I can choose this here. I'm on Pro RAW and 48 megapixel, which is fine. So let's take a shot. Here we go. Shot is taken. And now I want to mount the Super Tele lens 240mm in exactly the same image composition and field of view, and we see what we get. So this is the field of view, the perspective we get when the Super Tele 240mm is mounted. And also here I want to take a shot now. And I think this will look very, very nice. And you see here nicely over the causeway towards the old part of Rapperswil. Nice small municipality city here in Switzerland. Let's have a look at these two frames, the one without the Super Tele 240mm mounted and the second one with the tele lens mounted. And let's have a look at these images. I applied a bit of post-processing already because I never use an image for myself when I shoot raw or give it to a client when I shoot raw without doing some post-processing. So I cropped in here a little bit, made perspective corrections. That's why we do not have the full 48 megapixel, but 46.2 megapixel, but it's the raw file, DNG, and it looks pretty good. And let's crop in here to 100%. I think this is very nice in terms of detail, what's been captured. Of course, we are talking here about an iPhone 17 Pro Max and not about a Leica SL3 or a Hasselblad X2D Mark II. But given that this is a smartphone, this looks very well. Here's the old castle of the city, you know, construction sites. Here's the causeway over the lake. Looks all pretty good. And that's the frame without the tele lens. And then we have here the frame with the Super Tele 240mm mounted. And this takes us even closer to the old castle. So this looks all pretty good. I think the footage is usable. I would never sell footage from a smartphone to a client. That's why I have so many professional cameras in the studio. But for social media, you know, for myself, and as I said at the very beginning of the video, if there is no other option, a smartphone is a really good fallback and still provides good image quality if we look here with a lot of detail. And this tele lens clearly is not deteriorating image quality, but keeping it, if not elevating it, and that all at 2 times the original focal length of the tele lens on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. The app is very, very well done. I've tried so many third-party apps in the past for my iPhone, and I always did fall back to the native iOS camera app. But this app is really starting to catch my attention because the interface is so simple. Everything works in a very nice way. It just has the functions I need, like exposure bracketing or focus stacking, focus peaking. Let's switch it on so you see it again and all of that. So it's exactly what I need. And it's not overboarded, not overloaded, not overcharged with functions I would never use. And that's unfortunately the case with many third-party apps for the iPhone. Here, this is much better. A really good feature is the focus bracketing. And let me quickly show that. I think we go here for the full range. And you just tap at the point in the scene which is closest to the camera. You can also specify the number of frames here. I would go here for 20 frames. Let's go here, 20 frames. And I think I should tap here. And then you start the sequence and it will take 20 frames and the focus is shifted in consecutive frames. And later, and that's a really cool feature, you don't need helicon focus on your MacBook to stack this into one single frame. it can be done in the iPhone app directly in the Reeflex app, which is very, very cool. So let's see how this plays out. You see, we get the frames. And if we stack this together, this will be a wonderfully sharp image corner to corner, which is absolutely fabulous. It saves so much workflow in post-processing if this is stacked together in the app. We'll see a dialog in a moment opening, and then it will ask me to stack it. And I think we can also check here the single frames. You see this, but let's stack it. And you see this looks like Helicon focus with all the contours. Very, very good computational photography at its best. And I'm sure the final frame will be very, very sharp. Look at that. Save. And it says save, done. The whole sequence in the focus bracketing is actually stored in the iPhone. And you see here how the focus is shifting away from the camera. And then here we have the finally stacked frame. And this looks really, really good. You see, this is very sharp and clearly has enhanced a lot the formerly shallow depth of field when you shoot in a 200mm macro situation. So you have all the single frames. You can also post-process these frames yourself, for instance in Helicon Focus on your MacBook if you want. But from the very last single frame, you see this is sharp now in areas more away from the camera, but then stacking them all together, which Reeflex conveniently does for you, you get a frame that is sharp corner to corner. Very cool, and as just said, computational photography at its best. Here two images I also wanted to quickly show. So this is the telecamera 4x telecamera optical zoom on the iPhone with the Super Tele 240mm. You see here in the upper left-hand side corner, full resolution, 48.8 megapixel. It's the digital negative, so the RAW file. And this looks really good. I think this is kind of very, very good image quality if you look at that. Of course, as said before, it's not a Hasselblad X2D Mark II or like a SL3 or like a Q3 or a GFX 100 Mark II. But for a smartphone, it's a really good result. And now I wanted to try to tap the 8x zoom in the Reeflex app to actually double the focal length. So here we are at about 200mm focal length, and I was pointing the camera towards this part here in kind of in the middle on the left hand side, and was zooming now with 8x, and then we get of course much closer. And if you watch here in the upper left hand side corner where my mouse pointer currently is, the megapixel, this falls then back from the full native resolution of the 4x telecamera 48.8 megapixel to 12.2 megapixel if I use the 8x zoom, because as I said before, this is basically a crop into the sensor of the 4x telecamera on the iPhone. But the level of detail is really good. This is usable, right? I mean, this is really good image quality. If you look from here and then to here, really good image quality, and this all works like a charm with the Super Tele 240mm. All in, I had a lot of fun shooting this Reeflex equipment here, the gear in front of me on the table. It was a lot of fun, and I think the image quality also speaks for itself. It's really, really good stuff we are talking about here. So let's look into a few more images and then let me conclude the video. All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to say and show. This is a very interesting ecosystem Reeflex is offering here. The case is good, solid. I like it. It feels good in hand. You can basically screw on the lenses here. We have the telephoto 240mm lens close to 200mm effectively on the 4x optical zoom lens here on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. We have macro add-on lenses. The image quality is fully convincing in my opinion. We have the magnetic filter adapter set, which I did not live demonstrate and shoot, but explained how it works. And that of course completes the picture, because if you want to reduce reflections, you take a polar filter and voila, they provide you with one. If you want to shoot in daylight, longer exposures, you need neutral density filter, and voila, they provide you with this. And it all fits together. It all is magnetically hold together. And I think what they created here all in is something very remarkable with a very small company and really great outcome and results when it comes to footage. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me your thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy. And of course, peace out.